Shalinka, I'm very excited because I have the privilege to talk to you today and record this podcast. As I mentioned to you, I'm doing this podcast where I call it Improving with Friends, and that's who you are, a good friend. So why don't you introduce yourself to those who don't know you and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure, Carlos. First of all, thank you for having me, Carlos. And yes, so my name is Shalinka Fernando, and I am based in Sri Lanka. And I lead the project management office of Vision Fund International. So my role is more about helping the organization maybe work smarter and making
Mhm,
sure that the projects we take on aren't just ticking boxes, but truly moving us closer to our mission.
mhm,
And also that the projects we undertake are managed well and with proper frameworks, tools, and resources.
mhm,
So, Vision Fund has the most vulnerable children at our heart. So, whatever we do, we try to make their lives better.
mhm,
So, yeah, Carlos, so that's what I do, and that's who I am.
mhm.
And as a person, I'm a green belt and currently pursuing my black belt in the Kaizen journey. And yeah, that's who I am.
That's great, Shalinka. And you have been working on this journey for years. Um, I remember you taking on the the green belt and going through your certification, but you've always been passionate about continuous improvement. And so, where did that continuous improvement started for you?
Okay, Carlos. So my continuous improvement journey started, I think, when my former manager nominated me for the Green Belt cohort done by World Vision. So as you see, Carlos, it's not a very exciting story, my start, but that's just the start. So let's go on in my story. So that's how I get into this continuous improvement way of working. But as a project manager, I think I knew the continuous improvement principles and I knew it, but I've never really thought about using it as a foundation in my project management journey. But I think it changed when I started my green belt and when I started doing my first project using this methodology. And for me, I think I always think in this, in when we drive change and new initiatives, project management, and all of that, people are the most important um, aspect of it. So, in continuous improvement in Kaizen, we talk about listening to the customer, voice of customer, right? Coming to the source of that requirement. So that really changed the way I looked at projects, I think. And it also talk taught me to listen deeply and
Mm,
getting into the root cause. I really like that because I think, Carlos, in one of the uh, workshops that we had, you said something resonated with me very deeply.
mm,
Conflict between people happen because of the process, right?
mm,
Not because of people. So that kind of led me to understand and drive people to find the root causes that creates problems,
mm,
not look at each other. So if you really look at that, I think there are lots of improvements that we could do in the work that we do.
mm,
And another thing that really helped me was being closer to where action really happens, which we talk a
mm,
bit about from the Gemba Walk, which is
mm,
like actually the way we should work.
mm,
And so it really gave me a very different, empowering perspective to project management. And I really believe, as I told earlier, that people are the greatest resource we have.
mm,
And continuous improvement principles really gives us some amazing strategies to lead
mm,
them in change, as like not like lead them, but to think it's our projects, right? It's us together trying to
mm.
improve day by day, step by step. So, yeah,
Yeah,
that,
I
yeah.
I think that's really important, Shalinka, and that is something a lot of people when they try to learn the tools and the methodologies and things like that, I think they forget what you just shared with us, that like organizations, for them to have better processes and better products, they really need to invest in their people, their staff. And sometimes leaders want the easy or the quick fix to problems. But as you and I know, and even you from your own experience, it takes a lot of time to develop people and to develop the competencies that are associated with continuous improvement and problem solving.
And also, Carlos, we are in a very quickly change in rapid world, right? So we need instant, it's an instant world. We need instant results every time. So as leaders, also, I think it's challenging for them to, okay, give people time. But I think methodologies like this do talk to those root causes, the importance of it, and kind of slowly and like slowly embed those cultures of listening, stopping, pausing, those sort of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can't always blame the society now because it's instant. Even for us, Carlos, with internet, AI, we get instantly what we want now.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes everything's not like that. So you need time, you need to pause. So that kind of really helps, I think, in driving change and innovation.
Yeah, that's right. And I really have enjoyed working with you and Richard and Mike and the different countries that you're helping. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what type of work you're doing with those groups and countries, and how does continuous improvement play a part in this work that you're doing?
Okay, so absolutely, Carlos. So I work with Mike and Richard in the business optimization unit of Vision Fund. So what we are trying to do is also help the organizations grow, right? So that's kind of our main objective.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like how we have approached that, though we didn't know I knew Kaizen and they knew Kaizen as well. But when we started our journey, we didn't know we were doing Kaizen or continuous improvement, but we were doing that. We first thing that we decided is as a team, we just go to the field.
Mm-hmm.
That would be our first thing that we do when we start working with the country. So 2 weeks extensive travel to the branches, customers, observing, watching. So I've learned a lot from Richard and Mike, I think, about observing how the branch works, how the customers work, our relationships that we have with them, and how it could affect the way we work, right? So I think as a team, we started doing that. And then we looked into the Kaizen principles, and then you came aboard, Carlos, to help us out with having our first workshop in Tanzania to like kind of build that culture of continuous improvement. And also what I really like about is you you empower the people to do their own change, right? Here, because you know the way our organizations work, we have a global center, we have a regional structure, then we have the MFIs, and we kind of always think it's a top-down approach. We want to tell them what to do, but here it comes from bottom up, where it's their problem. And I love what you say, Carlos, about problems are treasures. That's like my motto for everything. Even my personal life, I tell my husband when we are struggling with a problem, remember it's a treasure. So we need to navigate through it. It's a treasure, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
really powerful, I think. There's one powerful phrase, Carlos, which I think I'll never forget. And even for our MFIs to really understand that these problems are treasures. We can find ways to navigate this, and through this, we can really improve ourselves, right? Through small problems. So
Mm-hmm.
those concepts that we worked through in Tanzania, and now we are seeing a lot of projects coming up and people talking about it, and people as teams talking to each other and helping each other. Those little things, Carlos, I think when we work together in an organization, we are all busy, We have our own tasks to do. But sometimes when we come together and talk about work, the work problems that we have, we can always help each other and find common solutions. So we are seeing a lot of it in Tanzania, Carlos, and I know you'll join us in our next bi-weekly call. And so you'll see the amazing, I mean, they've come a journey, so they are getting there. So we need to help them and support them to really embed that into their culture. But they are really supportive, and it always empowers them, right? Because they know they can lead change. They know they are the champion of this change. It comes from them. Everything comes from them, and they are working towards it. So that's amazing, actually, when you think of it. So coming back to our team, that's what we are trying to push. That's what we are trying our whole organization to be, Carlos. It's a way of life, as you said. So yeah, we want it to be the way we work in Vision Fund. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you said something very important about this bottom-up approach. And it's almost like it has to be a little bit of both, right? You have to have leaders to support, like Chilala and the senior leadership team and Eduardo and the leaders in Mexico. But then you also need to have them to create a space so people can bring the solutions and discover the treasures. And I think even sometimes these events, these Kaizen events that we do, it's a way, especially in transactional environments, it's hard to see the Gemba because you're dealing with a lot of information flow and things like that. And something I really enjoy is that article that you wrote about Gemba. When you heard the term, I want you to tell us more about your reflections about Gemba, because I thought it was very beautiful how you came up with that research. But it's really important that leaders go to where the action happened, which is what the definition of Gemba. So tell us a little
Yes.
bit more about your perspective on Gemba.
Okay, gladly, Carlos. Because I told you earlier, I'm Sri Lankan, and the language we speak is called Sinhalese. So in that language, Gemba means frog. So every time I heard this phrase Gemba Walk, it makes me laugh. And I'm like, it's just a frog, right? What can a frog do? So what is this hype thing about Gemba Walk? So, that's what I do. That's what I always thought about. But recently, I know our colleague Richard, he was doing this Toyota Way analysis and how it kind of resonates with microfinance, which we do. And he was conducting like a meeting, like we had a series of meetings to talk about each principle. So in one of the principles, it talks about Gemba Walk. So I was just listening to it and I thought, okay, let me see whether there is actually any connection between the characteristics of a frog and the Gemba Walk. And I soon did some initial research and actually it blew me away, Carlos. And it took me back to my Christian roots, actually, where the Bible says in Job 12, but ask the animals and they will teach you, and the birds in the sky and they will tell you, or to the earth it will teach you, or let the fish in the sea inform you. So that it kind of really opened my eyes, I think. And and it made me really think, okay, Gemba Walk is being closer to where the action really is, which is like the nature, right? So for us personally, when we ought to learn from nature, I think if we are closer to nature, it will tell us everything that we need to know about living an impactful life. So same with an organization. If you are closer to the nature of the organization, which I think is the field where the action really happens, it will teach us how best to work. So, and also this Gemba Walk really resonates with one of the principles in the Toyota Way book, which says, I think, 12th principle, which says observe deeply and learn iteratively, right? So, like a frog, what I read, like research was, like a frog, a leader who practices Gemba stays close to the ground. The frog is always on the ground, right? So
Mm,
they go to where the real work happens. They pause, they watch, and listen before taking action. So the frog is also like that. And in the Gemba Walk also, that's what they say about listening to the employees, watching the processes, and understanding before making changes. So deep observation before actions, and no jump into conclusions, because it's very easy in this day and age just to look at the assumptions, data, and jump into conclusions. Carlos, you always tell us not to do that, to look at the root causes. So that's very important, I think, when you look at a frog as well. And again, frogs are adaptive, adjusting to water, land, and air conditions. So I think the Gemba walkers also must be adaptive, agile, and respond to what they see, and tailoring the solutions, right? So need to be flexible, I think. So that's one similarity. And one thing that I really like is the it says the frog leaps only when necessary with precision. So that's
mm,
something is sometimes very difficult for us to do, Carlos. When you see something, you make assumptions and you want to quickly do something. But sometimes we also need to uh, pause, I think, and make focused, data-driven, continuous improvements, right? Not all at once, but little changes, which is in our control quickly. So I think I like that international move and at the right time to move. And lastly, frogs are quiet and calm and only croak when needed. So, Gemba walkers also should, I think, observe without disrupting, because we are in the environment. We need to have that respect when we are in the field, just to offer insights and questions calmly in a very quiet and good manner, right? And croak only when needed. So so that I really like, because respect for the environment, for the people, and not being disruptive. So I really like that. As you said, Carlos, it gave me a deep sense of how connected we are with everything that's happening around, right? When it comes to Kaizen or continuous improvement, we would think it's just a way of working. But having said that, it's not that. Con- it's connected to nature. It's a whole life, I think, in
mm,
together, right? So yeah, and during a field visits also we have seen that, like small barriers, like maybe some unclear client instructions, or group visits not being sufficient, something like little things that cause bigger delays down the line. So by witnessing these firsthand, we were able to help and advise the organizations to redesign their workflows, or especially training materials in a much more practical and respectful way. So, yeah, that's a bit about the reflection and also what we learned and how we kind of dealt with it as a team, Carlos.
That's great, Shalinka. I love it. I told you there's a Kaizen I remember called the 3P. And in that, we talk about uh, creativity management, and we go and look at the nature and find the solutions to the problems. And I just thought I loved how you connected the frog and what they do with Gemba, and it really helps to bring home some of those key points that you just shared with us. So thank you for that. So maybe to close, I can talk with you for hours and keep learning about the things that you have learned and reflect over the years. But I'm just with this last point is about there's many people who want maybe to start their own continuous improvement journey, or leaders who want to apply this to their teams and the organization. So what would be an advice for those people? Where should they start? What would be your advice?
Okay, Carlos. So that's a great question, I think. So we have encouraged our organization, as you know, to sort of get into these principles. So as we always know, we are doing continuous improvement, but we do not know sometimes we are doing it. but going into a structural sort of cohort or a study guide, it will really help. So what we have done is whom we work with, the MF countries that we work with, we have encouraged them to start with their white belt, which
Mm,
is very simple. They'll get an idea of what this is all about, and then to pursue the other belts, right? So if our organization is blessed, we have those foundations done, we have those resources in place where you can help. And even Carlos, I think for me, I really learned from my peers during green belt and the black belt cohorts, right? You really
mm,
listen to them, you learn from them, and as you initially said, you always do a podcast with someone very important, but sometimes people like us, we would like to hear from our peers who are like,
mm,
and those resonate really well with us. So
mhm,
that is a great encouragement that our organization does here, share in and out of those cohorts and how they help each other. So
mhm,
we've taken the first step, I think, by encouraging people to do that. And, if people do take it up, then we will have many more resources who can help each other out and
mhm.
also improve themselves in this journey, Carlos. So I would recommend to get into a good structured sort of program in this in continuous improvement, which will help you for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you're mentioning that, Shalinka, because I think, especially in this um, era of, like you said before, a lot of information, artificial intelligence, that now is the opposite to when I started learning this. Now there's too much, and you don't know even where to start. So, like you said, having a structure approach can help. And also, I think it creates a common language. Right? It's almost
Mm,
like learning another language where organizations can now speak about value and waste and uh, root cause analysis and all that. And it really brings a standard in how people communicate. So thank you, Shalinka, for your time and for sharing your wisdom.